Hello, everyone. Again, it's Rita and Scott. We're here with another Cosmic Dialogue. We have no idea what's going to happen. And we're in December now, December 14th. And our topic today we're going to talk about is when we were shown what we weren't seeing, or that around that topic. All right, Rita, why don't you start us out?
Okay. So looking back from 2025, back to the time when we asked to be shown what we weren't seeing. And the first thing we started noticing was kind of a movement in static things. So that sort of set the stage for what to look for. It's a blank wall, but then there's this moving going on, like an electrical grid, an energy happening, and in the sky. And then from there, because we were willing and because we asked to really see what really is, even though it's not what we are taught to look for. Not only were we sort of seeing the energy of things and the energy of thoughts and feelings, but under the surface, intentions started to be exposed. So, yeah, take it away of what you noticed during that time.
Okay. One of the things that I noticed right away was just like you said, the sky and the sun seemed to change for me. And trying to get articulate about this. So many intangibles and those very bodily feeling at first. So it's hard to put some things into words right now. But kind of being asked to show what is unseen kind of puts you in that mold of like, well, how will I see that? So I almost had to like look in the periphery. I had to train myself to look at different things too. It wasn't necessarily about, oh, I'm just asking for it. And it's just like, boom, all of a sudden I'm going to see everything that I haven't seen. So I realized that asking that question first was really inviting me to also see with my eyes, but also my senses and my body in a different way. And once I got that idea of this is how I will know out of my head, like I stepped away from like, well, this is how I'll know I'm seeing something that's unseen. Once I got that out of the way, then that's when things started happening for me. The energy thing was very apparent for me. You could actually like sense the movement in almost everything you looked at. And then it was this energy and intention, almost spirit like presence that you could detect in certain things that you would look at and certain things that you could look at them and you wouldn't see that. But also, I saw different things in my dreams. I saw different things when I looked at people, when I made eye contact with folks. And at first, they weren't as tangible as I can see them now, but now it's automatic. And I think to myself, whenever I see this, because it's a body response, okay, there's something here that I'm seeing something that isn't normally perceived by I don't want to say average folks, or the dominant culture that tells us this is what we look at. So, and it can show up in anything, like a strand of someone's hair, like their hand and how they touch a leash if they're walking a dog, or in the bag that they're carrying that carries their groceries, or how they open up a door. It's there's a subtlety, but yet it almost now hits me quickly. That's hard for me to explain, but there's like, oh, there it is. This is something that was previously unseen because we were never conditioned. And I think I want to use that word. We were never conditioned to actually look anywhere else. So whether we see energy or auras or hear voices, I hear dogs barking when there are no dogs to bark. I see animals coming through my hallway every once in a while. And to some people, this might seem pretty delusional. Scott's just being delusional again, seeing ghosts, seeing spirits, seeing the other things that are invisible. It's not necessarily the same way as invisibility to me, but it's, wow, I'm really seeing the sun in the sky in a new way. And it's magnified 4 times bigger than I've ever seen it in my life. And so it's that kind of feeling. It's not like, oh, I'm peeking around the edges of the world to see a ghost. It hits you. And that hits you really hard. It's like, oh, I see this deer in the forest who is looking at me, and I'm actually seeing something more than that deer. And not just observing it for my own pleasure. I'm seeing what's unseen about that in a new way. It's almost like I can, then that deer fades away and becomes something else. You can see a spirit quality. What else for you, Rita?
Well, as we started to see these more things, then we started to wonder, am I creating these visions? Did these things exist before I asked to see them? Or was my vision just that impaired because of our conditioning? And then we started to experiment with, what can we create through seeing? And so as we started to imagine what might come next, those things we started to see. And so imagination and reality started to really come together for us, much like children. And so these last 5 years have just become more and more playful and fun and creative. So the things that we're doing now just weren't even imaginable 5 years ago. And the world we live in is so different because we and other people have jumped on board to help create this world rather than go along with what we were told the world had to be. And that's just become so enlivening and fascinating and there's just no, it's infinite what we can create. So for some people that's overwhelming and they want to let others do the creating. So, we hope that they'll try it for themselves as well. But it also doesn't matter because we're busy creating a world for ourselves.
And
Yeah,
I kind of think that these items now that we can see and create, it's as if we're actually accessing a memory that's outside of ourselves in order to create something new for us to see. So all these things started overlapping: memory, dreams, creativity, imagination, and reality. Like, oh, I saw that. It's like if you go to an art class and you're just put in front of the woods and you're told to like paint what you see. Oh, I'm sure I would probably have the odd painting out where I would see pinks and greens and golden rays and something absolutely different than like probably 90% of the class. But if you just put in front of that place, we see from, I mean, it's pretty obvious. We do see from our memories too, as much as we see from what's planted into us, what we've learned, what we attach our symbology of language to. So you really start becoming like a real, oh, I see a ship. Okay, so I'm saying that I'm seeing a ship, but what am I really seeing? And then when you get out of the way of that notion of this is what I've been trained to see and to look at, to identify, to label, to compartmentalize as ship on the ocean or on the lake. Um, when you get out of the way, then you can kind of like stretch your mind out and you like, I see gray, I see, but then I realize that's a word. I see, maybe I see some sort of globby spirit, but then that's a word. So it's almost like I realized that I had to like just let the experience overtake me. And then I realized, oh my gosh, what am I really doing in this world? I am this vehicle that creates just by seeing, because things hit my senses, the back of my retina, my brain interprets it, and then I spit it out, call it something, I label it, I remember it, I categorize it in my brain. And so there's all these inner workings, and then you become so familiar with all those inner workings. And when you're like, show me what I'm not seeing, you need to take away a lot of those categorizations, those labels, those processes, and actually process differently. So it makes it very hard to put it in words, almost impossible to put things in words. But the closest thing I can come to putting into words is that you see an essence. Um, you see moving matter. You see energy. You see light in places you've never seen light before, because that's the closest approximation word that I can come up with. And then you actually can almost just see and trace your mind's process, and if you can get out of the way, or you can just say thinking again, Scott, just visualize it, see the unseen, thinking again, see the unseen. There comes a point where you actually do start to actually see beyond the physical structures the physical colors that we normally want to associate with that. And I'm really thankful because I think it's really changed and molded my mind to actually retrain itself to creating new patterns and new connections, to where if I walk down the street with Scott and and ask him what he sees, it really makes you fully aware, and even sometimes fully aware to the point that you know that you're not aware, if that makes sense.
Well, what we realized eventually is that it comes down to desire and noticing what we actually desire. Do we really want to see what everything that's there in front of us? Do we really want to? Or are we comfortable being a little bit blind or a lot blind? Does that make us feel safer? Or are we willing to see what's actually real and true and visible and provable and mathematically solvable? And it just depends on how deep your desire is. And so to be driven by actual desire from a pure place, not an unconscious, addictive place, opens up the vision tremendously. Um, yeah, and it's like there's nothing more to say after that.
Well, and I think that for us, we can actually. I mean, I'm so ready. I was. I asked that question when I was ready, and so of course I'm going to go down the rabbit hole as far as it'll take me. I mean, if you aren't ready to be blind, get ready. If what a way to like make yourself almost have to feel comfortable in your blindness by saying, "Show me all that is unseen." You got to really comfortable being blind, and not so many people have maybe that. I mean, it's you have to give up a lot of these things. We're addicted to our thoughts. We're addicted to smells. We're addicted to so many senses that we have. So, of course, and and maybe comfortable with paradox. Um,
Well, yeah, you just said a pretty extreme paradox there of show me what I'm not seeing, so I have to be ready to be blind.
yeah, and
And I noticed that I started saying, instead of saying I want something, I'm ready to. Yeah. So we were ready to be shown.
it's yeah, we can always want and desire something. I want to see the unseen, out of like this. Um, I don't know what the right word is. There's desire, and then there's um, real. It's something between real desire and narcissistic desire. It's almost an addictive desire. I
Mm-hmm.
want to see the unseen. It's almost like I want to go to Mount Everest. I mean, it's the same kind of thing. Or I want to do this, achieve this, so that you can achieve it. That's the catch, because you really can't just say I want to see the unseen and then just claim it and achieve it. you have to ready yourself, and just to be, and that other portion is like, say, I'm ready. I'm ready to see what's unseen. And then allow that, rather than a conquering, I want to see this.
Or getting.
Either way, you'll be knocked on your butt. So, I mean, would you rather be knocked on your butt by being ready and really fully absorbing that you're ready, or out of like a notion of achievement and a goal that you're just going to be thrown completely somewhere you had never thought of? So,
Yeah.
and how will you measure that if you're thrown there? So, but it's a different kind of knowing when you start seeing that and you realize your complete role. Like, I think you alluded to this. You realize your complete role in the creation of a universe, because you realize, yes, I have self-control and I get to choose the next word I speak. I get to choose to see or not see, or um, I get to choose to remember something and apply a label or not. I get to choose to create it in art so that other people can see it or not.
Or create it and not show it to anyone.
And not show it to anyone. Um,
Well,
when,
what
yeah.
really became apparent was the total self-absorption that we had lived in as a human race for millennia. Not and irresponsibility, because we had been creating, whether we knew it or not. And now and at that time, we were being asked to be shown all of that self-absorption, everything we had created, because that's part of what we hadn't seen. So some of it was not pretty. And that's why it often seems more comfortable to remain blind.
Hmm.
And so that was part of it. But when you feel through all of that, then there's just a universe of wonders to be seen. And wow, and just like you said, all of those choices in every moment of what am I going to do and say, down to every word, what am I going to create and show or not show? And am I going to watch the effects it has outward from me, and what I see going to create?
And I wonder too if this is I often wonder if this is an evolution of ourselves, or it is actually getting back to an essence of humanity that we once had. And I think that's always a big paradoxical question. Before we had language, I'm sure we had to rely on,
Feeling each other.
yes, seeing what was unseen.
Mm-hmm.
Before,
Knowing what wasn't said.
feeling your own identity in the place of a universe. I mean, I think we're getting to an essence there, where the birth of humanity marks the evolution of humanity. It's a hard paradox
Mm.
for me, but that's what I start seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the closest thing with language in the way to come up with. Wow, we have been so irresponsible with what we've seen. And at the same time, so massively creative with our response to what is unseen, probably as a whole species throughout our existence. So that's kind of like where I sort of end up when I think back and reflect on that experience. Just it's profound. My brain just can't, which is good. My brain can't categorize or it's like a big stumbling stone in the way. Get your brain out of the way because you're just going to fall over this.
Yeah. And that keeps us learning and growing and changing, and our brain changing and our souls changing. There's just no end to it.
And either we're changing or we're remembering. I don't know.
Mm.
Maybe that's the same process. Maybe they're interlocked somehow.
Mm.
Change, evolution, remember. Um, and the more unseen we see, the more we know we're not seeing. So it's, yeah, wait until we're ready for that. Now show me what I'm really not seeing.
Yeah.
I'm not quite there yet. So, yeah. Anything else?
I think that's good.
Good. Thanks, Rita.
Thank you.